After firing shots at each other for the last 3 years, the legal battle between the United States Securities and Exchange Commission, the SEC, and Ripple finally enters its trial phase. Now, if you recall, back in December 2020, the United States Securities and Exchange Commission, the SEC, filed and accused Ripple of raising over $1.3 billion in an unregistered securities offering. Now, Ripple do oppose this, saying that the native token does not fall under such an investment, thus not under the jurisdiction of the SEC. This week, things are heating up, and we're going to be discussing what's been going on in the news and in the price action of XRP in relation to the SEC versus Ripple. Let's get into it. Major Ripple and SEC update this week. This week is a key week for the case, the legal battle between the SEC and Ripple, for some very interesting reasons. Let's take a look at what's going on here. So the legal spat between Ripple and the SEC has progressed to trial. This is something that we've been talking about for quite some time, and it's good to see that things are finally progressing. You know, talks with settlement are still potentially underway, but there is lots of to-ing and fro-ing between Ripple and the SEC. The SEC are asking for $1 billion, and Ripple are saying more like 10 million, and so that's kind of going backwards and forwards. But there's lots of analysts that are predicting that Ripple are likely to win this case, and if it goes to trial, or now it's gone to trial, then a lot of people are speculating that actually Ripple are more likely to win than the SEC. And this could potentially be very damning for the SEC in other cases around the crypto space. So we really do want to see a Ripple win here, even if you're not really keen on the XRP token or anything like that. This is or will have ripple effects all the way through the crypto space. So we really do need to see a Ripple win, or at least kind of knock back the SEC through settlement. Now, some experts on XRP are basically kind of coming up with the idea that maybe the catalyst for the next XRP bull run is going to be through this lawsuit, and I completely agree. Let's take a look at what's going on in some details here. Obviously, it's an eventful week. The trial is surrounded by multiple developments and obligations on both parties that must be met. A few days ago, Judge 𝗕𝗃𝗀𝗃 entered a new scheduling order, basically requiring the SEC to respond to its motion for remedies and entry of final judgment. Okay, now we have seen that. We'll get to that in a moment. And obviously, that's not as clean cut as maybe we would like it to be. So we want to be a little bit open-minded to what potentially is going to happen after. Now that we have seen the SEC, respond, we now have 3 days for Ripple to respond to that. So it is to-ing and fro-ing quite a bit. So it's going to be an eventful week. There's lots of things going on ultimately in there. Now, numerous industry participants view the involvement of Judge 𝗕𝗃𝗀𝗃 as a positive sign for Ripple's victory, due to her relatively favorable stance towards XRP. This goes back, I think, to 2022, where some statements were made by 𝗕𝗃𝗀𝗃 in relation to XRP. So from very interesting things, how the perception is that it's actually not that different between XRP, Ethereum, Bitcoin, for example, and there is actually utility there. So interesting stuff. Now, in terms of what the SEC said, we can take a look at this one here. With the XRP news today, the legal battle is intensifying. So this is new as of 1 a.m. UTC, today the 30th of April. And basically, SEC counters Ripple's motion to strike. So let's take a look at what's going on here. So basically, the SEC versus Ripple, the SEC filed an opposition brief. On Monday, the 29th, yesterday, SEC versus Ripple case related updates garnered investor interest. The SEC filed an opposition brief per the court briefing schedule, which we're just talking about, arguing against Ripple's motion to strike. And so Ripple filed the motion to strike, requesting the court to disregard testimony from the SEC accountant, Andrea Fox, and supporting exhibits, the Fox Declaration. And so basically the SEC here are saying that this This isn't a expert witness. This isn't anything of an opinion. This is just fact. It's accounting. It's numeracy, and therefore shouldn't be, struck from the case. So it's very interesting. I think that the SEC might actually get this one through, but we will see what happens next in relation to it. But ultimately, I don't see this as a big setback for Ripple, for XRP Army and the XRP community, but it's going to be an interesting one to keep an eye on, as it potentially will have a bit of a ripple effect in the case. But as the SEC do rightly point out, this isn't a matter of opinion. It's not a witness, an expert testimony. It's nothing like that. It is basically just an accountant doing numeracy, right? It is basically the numbers that do not lie. So it can't really be struck. And I think Ripple will probably stretching at this one anyway, in my opinion. But it is interesting. Moving over, all of this stuff that is going on in the world of the SEC versus Ripple is some background noise. XRP whales are accumulating heavily ahead of the filing that just went by. Now, this article does go back a couple of days, but we've been talking about this in the last XRP video as well. The XRP whales have been buying up as we've seen some volatility in the price action for XRP. So it's no surprise that although things are heating up in the case, that there are advantages being taken by some investors, whether they are whales or not. I think even retail investors have been, continuously build up their positions and accumulate more and more XRP over time. And so we are seeing whales doing this, right? Big, heavy players basically accumulating. We've seen wallets with over 1 million XRP in them go to new all-time highs, and we've never had so many people, individual investors, have as much XRP as they have today. And that is a strong sign that there's a lot of faith and a lot of belief that XRP is going to be very, very successful in the future. The more whales, the better. Ultimately, it does show that there's going to be a lot of participants holding a lot of the supply, which means unless they're all likely to sell simultaneously, at some point they will sell to the way to the upside more than likely. But for the most part, a lot of that supply being held by a few retail investors, institutional level investors, does actually mean that there's less supply available for other people to be buying up, and therefore price will surge. Now, obviously, there's a lot of reasons between the supply demand metrics, and obviously, the potential for banking sector to be utilizing XRP and kind of use it as a way to bridge between multiple different countries and move money around the world like an email, right? Lots of real good use case potentials there. Whether we see those in the next kind of 5-10 years, I do not know. One of the things that I do know, though, is that we are in a pretty decent position with the price being suppressed due to the lawsuit, and a lot of people accumulating ahead of the settlement or conclusion, resolution of the actual case. And when that does come to conclusion, we are going to see a fantastic run to the upside, which speculates on the idea of a bullish market for XRP. Now, with all of that being said, let's take a look at what's going on in the charts for XRP, because I think that's going to also give us some insights as to what the next move is going to be. Now, if we take a look at the charts just from a kind of traditional point of view, just using support, resistance, and your exponential moving average and your simple moving averages, we are not looking as strong as we need to. Okay, so this is the daily time frame for reference, and we can see that we did have this previous area of support coming in here between the 56.23 and 58.45. This was a previous area of resistance, and it has turned back into a resistance, 56.23 to 58.45. Now, this area is currently resistance, but it's not just that area of resistance that we're mirroring or watching here. We are also looking at the 200 exponential moving average. That is our white line going through the chart here. This white line is now resistance. What was previously looking as support is resistance. And so not only do we find ourselves with the price rejection from the previous support lines, but we also find that the 200 exponential and the blue line, the 50 exponential moving averages, are being resistance for XRP's price action on the daily time frame. The other bad piece of news is the yellow line. The yellow line is the 50 simple moving average. And if the 50 simple moving average crosses down lower than the 200-day moving average or exponential moving average, then we are going to see that and look at that negatively. Short-term price action is lower than than long-term price action. And as a result, it would call it a death cross, and XRP is more than likely going to see a bit of a dip to the downside. Now, that's just from your traditional kind of ways of looking at the market. If we turn off the 50 EMAs to 50 SMAs and we turn on smart money concepts, well, we could actually be a little bit more I guess happy with the market because it hasn't changed its bullish structure from what we saw previously. We have been ranging since we hit 93.8, which was our C wave high. Okay, we do have a change of character into a bullish state of play, and we've got all of these bullish break of structures here. All of those are still remain true. We haven't broken any of those major changes or confirmations of our bullish upward movement. And so everything that's going on since we hit 93.8, although has been quite damning for many retail investors, it has actually just been a ranging market, a sideways trading market, continuation pattern, if you will, which means that we're likely to see the break to the upside in the coming kind of weeks and months. The good news is obviously there's no major changes here. At least none that have been confirmed. Now, with everything that's going on here, we have to kind of be aware that things potentially will be looking a little bit interesting from an Elliott wave theory point of view. From an Elliott wave theory point of view, we can see that we have potentially completed our structure here, but it has the potential still to go down a little bit deeper. Let me kind of show you what I'm looking at to get you an idea as to kind of where I think things could potentially still go down to. So here we can cross down deeper than the 1.236. And as such, we normally have to consider this a W, X, Y, X, and Z. And in that particular case, we would have to take a look at the next kind of target range here being somewhere between, let me find it, the 46.06 and 33.43. Now, there's no guarantee that we go down that low. The minimum expectations will, of course, be 46 cents. So we do know that there's a likelihood of still here for further slippage to the downside under a W, X, Y, X, Z pattern. Complete that out, and I think we're then in the next bullish move to the upside. So I guess what I'm trying to say here is expect volatility for the price action of XRP. There's some fantastic things going on in the news. We see, the case between Ripple and the SEC heating up. It's intensifying. There's the potential of a bullish market for XRP once all that case comes to a close, comes to resolution. The price chart shows us some volatility, which means there's probably going to be some SEC little mini battle wins alongside Ripple wins as well before the case comes to an end. Expect volatility as we do see price potentially go down, pump up, and go back down again, just as we start to see liquidity getting extracted from the market based on the news that we see within the case. Going to trial is a key thing, but it could last quite some time before we see resolution if a settlement isn't agreed between the parties. So just bear that in mind. Ultimately, though, I think going long on XRP over a multi-year period is a pretty decent move in my opinion. But I am no financial advisor. I can't give you financial advice. All I can do is share my thoughts and opinions on the data in the charts as I personally see it. And guys, if you're interested, you should probably check out this video right here where I'm discussing what's going on with ICP.